Hi, everybody. Russ and My Hammers 11. Hope you are all safe and well. Apologies for the Christmas jumper, particularly for those watching it after Christmas now, but doesn't matter. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the bell icon. And also, as always, I'd like to thank our channel sponsors, Untuck It. Check them out in the description below. Today's guest is a busy man. He does lots of different hats on, but the most important one is he's a West Ham fan. It's Tom Rennie. Hi, Tom. How are you, man?
I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I wish that I had got the memo about the jumper, to be honest.
Yeah.
I have a wardrobe full of terrible Christmas jumpers. I've actually stripped this room of Christmas paraphernalia to make this interview more timeless.
Yeah.
And you've got extremely festive, so I regret that.
I have. And to be perfectly honest, Tom, I've been extremely festive, probably from about early November. I'm the annoying household in the street who puts up their Christmas decorations pretty much almost straight after Halloween.
No.
So yeah.
We have set rules in our house. Christmas decorations go up on the 14th, they go down on the 27th, and my neighbour has lights outside the front of their house. He's a lovely person, sure, but he has his lights on till midnight. It's too late. It's too late.
That is too late. That is too late. I mean, when you could go out, do you remember when you used to be able to go out? That was fun. That time.
What?
Yeah, I know. Go to like a restaurant and like to the theatre and stuff like that.
I quite like my lounge.
I'm quite used to it now. Yeah, but I was when you used to get in an Uber or a taxi home, and they go, "Where are we stopping off?" And I'm like, "Well, Blackpool Illuminations, basically at the top of the road. You can see it at the top of the hill."
Yeah.
And midnight's. I think mine go off about 11, 10:30, 11, which is
acceptable.
But
not in November.
No. Well, we had requests from our elderly next door neighbours to put them up early, and I was like, you don't need to ask me.
Of course you do. Yeah. They asked me, love. I had to do it. Yeah, right.
And we're doing it for charity as well. I got a QR code printed for Iron Supporting Food Banks and put it on the front. So no one can.
Don't make it seem like a worthy cause now. You can't now. Don't make me regret what I've already said. I'm standing by it.
I think we've made about 100 quid, which is not bad for them. Bless them. Fair enough. Anyway, how are you, Tom? How's things with you, man?
Yeah, I'm all right, mate. Yeah, it's been a weird time. So one of my jobs is to run TalkSport's international commentary team, and it's sort of been a bit odd because we sort of stopped for a bit and then we haven't stopped since.
Yeah.
And I just came back off doing, what did we do? 7 games last night, a couple of commentaries, and producing some of the shows, getting everyone in. It's just been it's been a manic time, and delivering it has been challenging. And a lot of the things we used to be able to do, like get to games and get individual interviews done and all that sort of stuff, that's not happening. A lot of Zoom calls, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So it's a weird time, as it is for all of us, but I'm ploughing on. The football never stops, so neither do I.
You're right. It's that sort of that 100-day period when there was no Premier League football, and then you had this sort of like feast and famine. Famine and feast halfway around.
Yeah.
Like a deluge, wasn't it? And even more so now. It's, as you said, like yesterday, like a full league program almost. It was like.
Well, we're getting games. We had a full program again. We had one Friday, then a few Saturday, a few Sunday. So I do 2 commentaries a week for our international partners. So you do 2 of them. And then we had a day off where I do a show for Sirius in America. And then I come back, we had games Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we're back again Saturday. And then we're back again. And on the lockdown bit, so the lockdown had March or whatever. Our last game was March 8th or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And my daughter was born at the start of April. So we had like 2 weeks where I was like, what are we doing? And then we had a baby. And so the bit where people were like on their sofa eating crisps, we were busier than ever.
Yeah.
So nothing has stopped, but it's all right. I'm all right.
Yeah, and as you said, at least you've been locked down, so to speak. You are more likely that sort of 2 weeks parental leave or whatever. You get to spend a lot more time with your newborn and stuff.
Yes, but now it's been a bit like 9 months of semi-parental leave. I do most of the work in this seat in my front room.
Yeah,
and it's when she starts crying at like 10 a.m. when I've only just started working. I regret all my life choices. Yeah.
It doesn't get no easier, Tom. I'll be honest. But we had a call on Sunday night from my daughter's school. She's 8, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well, a lot of teachers are self-isolating. It seems now there's been an outbreak, so you've got to homeschool them for this week." Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you so much.
So what you've been doing is showing the kids my West Ham 11s over and over again.
Basically,
the Ribland 11 like that.
Yeah, she can. Yeah, I've just got her to go through them all and mark them all down to make sure my tallying is correct. No, she's really good. She's really good. So me and my wife both work full time as well. So it's like, trying to juggle everything, and
Yeah, sure.
it's we're almost there. It's almost like, it's
Good.
funny because it seems like people are crawling to Christmas, and we've been locked up for so long that people are desperate to have Christmas where they can't go anywhere anyway. It's
Yeah.
a bizarre thing, isn't it? Because like you think, oh, Christmas, just sit in, don't do anything, put my feet up on the sofa. We've been doing that since since March.
Well, the good news is this year is I don't think that we're going to have any family round for this Christmas. We haven't quite decided. But the good news, usually my dad and I have several rows at Christmas, like everyone and their dads, I'm sure. But the row we're having currently is Lanzini finished? And that row's been going on now for about 18 months. And he still thinks he's got something to offer. I think we should probably try and let him go to where his level is, like second tier Spain. That's where about he is, I think, what I've seen for the last 18 months. But that row goes on. And then, of course, he scores that great goal against Tottenham. And I want to celebrate it, but I know it's going to ruin Christmas. So it was a tough moment for me.
Yeah, yes. And obviously he came on at the Palace game and arguably sort of gave a bit more creativity to obviously we've been replacing Fornals the Palace game at half time. It looks a bit better. The team did that second half. I think.
I mean, the player he was in 2015, 2016, 17, that era, before the big injury he got with Argentina, I really thought he would be fantastic. I mean, I hate saying this as a supporter, but the fact he was linked with Tottenham and linked with Liverpool makes you think, actually, maybe he's quite good.
Yeah.
Because we can't really assess our players. Like from the outside, when you look at other clubs, and I had a Palace fan mate, and he was telling me how much he likes Jairo Riedewald in midfield. And I was like, he's useless. What are you talking about? But apparently he thinks he's really good. That fan as opposed to outsider thing. Yeah. I think outsiders used to think Lanzini was good. Outsiders now go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Right, that's where Lanzini is.
Yeah. No, I know. But you're right. I mean, it's, because he's sort of, when you think he's one of those players, you think, oh, he's completely finished. And then, as you said, then there was the Tottenham game.
I mean, he's still technically, obviously, very gifted. That doesn't go away. But it's that bit where it used to. I remember Tottenham away, the one where Harry Kane scored late, the penalties and all that.
Yeah.
He scored a penalty for us on the day, and he was just phenomenal in central midfield. I think it was him and Obiang. And he was just rock solid. And by that, I mean, he was riding tackles. He's backing into people. He was a physical presence for a little guy. And I thought he could play central midfield for us. He's the new Noble.
Yeah.
He's the guy who could do the Noble job as well as he could score a great goal for us. He could be everything for us in that position. And then he doesn't have that now. He doesn't have the being able to survive the physical battle. And
that's it.
You talk to footballers that have come to England to play, often in retirement, their fitness more than when they're playing. And I think Timo Werner said something like this recently. It was like, it's not about necessarily the speed. It's the fact that it's a lot more physical. You get kicked, there's more physical contact. There's more pulling of the shirts, pulling of the shorts, normally the scrape down the ankles, you're bustling into people. We're in an era now where everyone feels the bustle and jumps on the ground, which drives me mad. And it's getting worse and worse and worse. But there's still more of that here than elsewhere. And at the moment, when I watch Lanzini, I don't see that he can ride that tackle and create something. But then again, we're great at free kicks, so I'll take the free kicks now.
Exactly. It's almost like in hockey, isn't it? Where you have like when they have a short penalty, a short corner, and they bring on a substitute for the short corner. Yeah, it's like Lanzini. It's like the other day when they took Bowen off, I was like, oh my God, who's going to cross the ball in? And then, it's like, and then they brought Snoddy on. They rolled Snoddy on for the last 10 minutes, bless him. But no, it's, and I mean, the boys are doing all right, aren't they? I mean, it's considering where everyone thought the doom and gloom at the beginning of the season, to be, in the top half.
Yeah, I think, it's a funny old world, isn't it, as a West Ham fan? Like the first time Moyes came in, and I was on air doing a TalkSport 2 show at the time when he came in with Mark Webster, of course, West Ham fan, all rights in the programme too. Brilliant guy, as you know. And we had this whole row, and we don't really row, Mark and I, we get on really well, but I just couldn't believe that we brought David Moyes in. I couldn't believe it. I was so disappointed. And I think mainly because I loved Bilic so much, and I would happily have got relegated for Slaven Bilic. I'd have happily given him 10 years to see what he could do with that team, go down, come up. What else we got going on? So I wasn't happy with it. But then in that period, when and I went to a game where we lost against Stoke, where Joe Hart gave it to Peter Crouch in the last minute, all that under Moyes, and all those home games against Bournemouth and Palace, where we showed no ambition to win, we got draws out of them, all that. But over time, that period, David Moyes earned the respect that I should have given him at the start. We all should have, and I wanted him to stay. When they got Pellegrini, I thought it was an awful idea. A ridiculous idea, and I'm really pleased Moyes has come back. And I think that there are many skeptics still that won't necessarily go for Moyes, but me, I'd happily give Moyes a 4 or 5 year contract, and I would let him make us not a joke. I think that's really. I don't want to be an embarrassment, and I think even if he went down, it would be because he didn't get the players he wanted, as opposed to we tried to play 7 up front away at City. You know, or the Pellegrini games at home against City, where we were 4-0 down in like 20 minutes and we still had 5 players forward. You know, it's amazing to me how often the 60-year-old plus South American coaches come to England somehow still naive. Like Bielsa, everyone's like, oh, it's amazing football. They're getting beaten by West Ham at home and they're running through the midfield, and he won't put another midfielder in there. He won't put another defender on. I play my way. Great, thanks. 3 points, please.
Yeah. It's so true, and I think and that's what I like about Moisey. I'm because I think he's building something. When you interview footballers when they move, to a new club, they go, "Oh, I'm moving for the project." So the manager's told me about this project.
The project.
Not the 150 grand you've got in the back pocket, but
how many projects a week am I getting?
Exactly, yeah. So, but this one seems a project. Moyes seems to be building something. Do you know what I mean? The backroom staff.
The main thing is, Russ, is that he's competent, and we lack competence as a football club. Yeah. God knows I love the place and the chaos and the nonsense that we put up with over the years. But I mean, I was in a very small group amongst my family who are pretty much all West Ham fans. But I wanted Allardyce to stay. And I know you can't say that anymore. And I know it wasn't the majority opinion. People all thought he'd run his course. And of course, I was there with the whole game and the Cup in the Ear and all that.
Yeah.
But I am a big fan of competence. I think it's a massively underrated thing. And I mean that personally, professionally, as a supporter. In the world we live in, competence is underrated. And Moyes has it. And he seems like a top guy as well. I think he seems like a real good person. So I'm happy for him to stay for as long as he wants.
As long as he wants, exactly. And I think he's been very shrewd with his backroom staff, and there are not, I know what you mean about not being a pushover anymore. We don't seem to be a pushover anymore. We've got sort of the Souček and Declan Rice. I mean, they put it about against anyone, and it's nice to see. It's nice to see.
I mean, the trouble is that I say the trouble. It's the fact is that we won't keep Declan Rice for longer than, let's say, a max of 3 seasons from this point, unless we were to qualify for the Champions League. And I feel like if he gave us 7 years and left at 25, I could cope with that. I think players who leave because they want to go win something, if they've given you 6 or 7 years, really good years, and they decide, look, this club, I love it, but I cannot stay here for my entire career, I'm happy to shake their hands, they can move on. And I think two more years out of Declan, I think he's earned that of everybody. And I saw a link this week with Souček going to Bayern. That's probably garbage, but I think he's good enough to play for someone like Bayern.
Definitely.
I really think he is a brilliant, brilliant footballer.
Yeah.
And the fact is that for the first time in 15 years, we don't look awful when Mark Noble's not playing.
No, yeah.
And we've needed him. He's carried this club. He has carried it. In so many ways, and I love him so much for someone who we're the same age, and it's weird to love someone the same age as you, but without him we have not worked for so long, and so to watch it work without Noble, I think Moyes, whoever scouted Souček, I know a couple of the agents involved in the deal that are looking to bring more Slavia Prague players to us as well. Let me tell you, we might be getting 1 or 2 more, and. Everyone that's involved in that deal deserves a lot of credit because he is exactly what we've needed for a long, long time.
Yeah, I think it's just this sort of workman-like attitude as well, isn't it? Maybe it's what you obviously with Soufal as well. That sort of.
Oh, how good was he against Palace? How good!
Brilliant. because I was a bit sort of hesitant because obviously you're thinking he's up against Zaha rather, and you think almost said Zaza. God, there's a blast from the past. Zaha.
Don't bring him up. Oh no.
Yeah, God.
Give me flashbacks now.
Oh God, that Juventus game. It was so promising. And so Zaha, and I thought, oh no, because he's not the quickest guy, but he had him in his pocket. I think
I tell you what, a lot of fans will recognise this. Soufal is Nigel Winterburn.
Yeah, good shout. Yeah.
You watched Winterburn when he came to us, past his best, obviously 37, 38. And for that one season on the left, I mean, the man was a terrier. And he wasn't the quickest, but he was always there. He wasn't the strongest, but he'd always win the ball. He was an obvious nutter, right? Yeah. And put all that together, and that's Soufal. You add his brilliant crossing in on that. I think he's a perfect player for us.
He really is.
And, I mean, 5 million in 2020. What do you get for 5 million? Ridiculous.
Exactly, it's ridiculous, and I think there's something to be said about buying players from leagues which aren't necessarily the most glamorous leagues in the world. We've tried Serie A, haven't we, with Anderson, and it's just to some degree Bundesliga with Haller as well. Though we spoke beforehand, there's no denying he's a great player. It's just
some denying.
Well, it's some denying, but I mean, for me, you can see technically he's a good player. He's just like, he's clearly a confident. I mean, after that goal against Palace, God, he looked like he was a dog on heat. He was like running everywhere, and where everyone was moaning that he didn't run, he was like in defence at some point. It's like,
well, I mean, as you say, confidence is everything. Goals change everything. I hope he does well. He has my support, but. As the German journalists I work with keep on telling me that you've got to build the team around him. You've got to get bodies around him, and maybe Ben Rama in number 10 could be the difference for him because he's close to him. I think Bowen has done a lot of work to make Haller better as well, getting around him. I don't know if Fornals is going to get much out of Haller. I mean, I like him, but I don't know what his role is. But I think that you've got to try and make it work for Haller. And when Antonio comes back, what I really want to see is Antonio, Haller, and Bowen as a three. He is at the forward now, Antonio, sure, and he was great at it. But if you can get that three together, or a two up front, Antonio and Haller, which we saw at Southampton away last, I can't recall when we've seen it.
Southampton home.
Get them two playing together, and we could be really good. They remind me of when it was Jason Roberts and someone for Wigan. I forget the other guy he was with now. It'll come back to me. They're two really good strikers.
No.
It'll come to me later, I'm sure. But it was definitely Jason Roberts was the lead striker of the two, and they had two physical presence. It wasn't a little man, big man. It was two, almost like when we tried to do Ashton and Carlton for a bit. Newcastle away, I remember us doing that, and one of them scored. Might have been Ashton, and I thought, this is like the Bruise Brothers up front. You know what I mean? Dino, like when he could run for 20 minutes. That I like the idea of the Bruise Brothers up front. I don't know why. I don't know why it would work, but I just like it.
Just getting the band back together, isn't it? That's what it is. You see. Very good. Right. Okay. First question. 17 minutes in. Why are you a West Ham fan, Tom?
Well, I'm from Rainham, Hornchurch. I live in Romford now, so I am the Heartland.
Really? Come and look at the Christmas lights. Osborne Road.
I'm not leaving my house, mate. What are you on about? I stay in this room, or I go to work, or I stay in this room. Well, I'm from the Heartlands, obviously. I mean, this is West Ham Landio, as you know. And my dad is a West Ham fan, and I'm very much fathered in to being a West Ham fan. First team I saw, 93. 3-2 win against Coventry. Tim Breaker scored the opening goal and signed my programme on the day as well. So I always remember it. And I just think there was no other choice. I don't remember there being another choice. I remember there being some talk at some point that some of my mum's family were Chelsea fans or something like that in my youth. But I do remember that being shut down almost immediately. I honestly don't think I had another choice. And I think a lot about what the club is. I don't know whether it happened to me because I'm a West Ham fan or I'm a West Ham fan because of it. But I feel like it encapsulates a lot of my personality, as in like that humour in the face of just utter nonsense.
Yeah.
And that kind of black gallows humor that all fans have of clubs that are good size, but why? You know, that's who we are.
So true. Yeah.
I think the fact I could get there as well. Look, I do a lot of work with supporter bases that are not in the UK. You know, supporter base like the Las Vegas Hammers and all that. These little guys. It's not to say they aren't as much of a fan of their club, whatever their club is, as I am. Right? You can be a supporter of anybody and not be in the country. All of that. But I do think there is something special about being able to go. And I've always lived 20 to 30 minutes away from the ground. And being able to go, and I had a season ticket for a lot of years, from about 10 to 18, before I went to university, and then started working, so I couldn't go as often as I would have liked. Your friends are West Ham fans, your school friends are West Ham fans, your family are West Ham fans. I don't think there was a choice.
No. Yeah, doesn't sound like it. Very similar to me. Very similar to me. And you're right. I mean, it's one. It's funny because we've interviewed loads of guys. We've obviously John from Las Vegas. We've done Longers and Lena and all over the place, from the Fresno Irons and the Indian Hammers and Hong Kong. All over the place.
Incredible.
It's incredible, and it's funny to think of this silly little club, and we are a silly little club in East London, having this sort of. And I think I was a bit naive to it, to be honest, when I first started. I mean, I've worked at the club for 20 years, and I sort of sit there and I sort of in my little box and don't talk, just sit there and press bubbles, and that's what I do. And I sort of was like, oh my God, we're actually, and West Ham Clips, who does his, we are effing massive,
Oh.
and it's like,
by the way, can I just say, I don't know the people behind West Ham Clips, but I love it so much.
Yeah.
Whatever I achieve in my career will not be as good as what they do.
Brilliant.
It's so funny. And I've been trying to get, I introduced Andy Brassel to it a couple of weeks ago, and everyone I know, I'd like Talk Sport or anyone, I'm like, you've got to watch this. You have to watch this. It'll get taken down soon. You've got like 2 hours to watch it. And it's just, the Basmati Busquets, and when LA is good, he's like Drogba, and when he's bad, he's a terrible player, and all of it. I just think
so good.
So funny. I love it. So funny. I love it.
I got Clips to do a Hammers 11, but as Clips, not as himself.
Oh, amazing.
And so and bless him, he was so sweet. He recorded it all, and obviously I chopped it up, and we did it like a bit like an interview. So but me just on one I literally had like you as just a blank screen, or his Twitter. It was really funny. Yeah. And he obviously had the Snod father in, and because all the players watch it as well. We know because
it's that good and that funny. Like this is the thing with the era that we live in now, is that if you are a creative person or creative people, you can get something out there, and suddenly everyone's seen it. If it's good, copyright issues they're involved in. I know.
Yes, indeed, but
it's just so good and so clever. And whenever we win, to be fair, preferably when we lose, it's the first thing I look for, because it's just so funny.
It's sort of the equivalent of Arsenal fan TV, isn't it? When Arsenal lose,
Robbie,
God.
I know we have our own West Ham fan TV people and all of that, and I don't encourage people for doing it. And people, some people like rap music. Do you know what I mean? Personally, I can't stand it, but I can understand why people like it. And with the Arsenal fan TV thing, I just think, it's that's your thing, fine, but it's not for me. It isn't for me. That the filming yourself, watching it, and then having a bit of a breakdown. It just
it's funny. It's so ridiculous. Like they had after the Burnley game, one of the interviews had like 250,000 views in like 12 hours. It's like.
Good luck to them.
Fair play.
Media, and they found a way to get out there, and if people like it, great. Personally, I hate it. And I don't know why it's so popular, but I mean, people watch Strictly Come Dancing as well. I don't get that either. It might just be me left, just sitting in this room
on your own
4 hours a day.
Yeah, just not watching anything, just literally watching the wall, watching West Ham clips on continual loop.
And 90s West Ham videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Video and West Ham clips. That's all I've got.
I've been trying to get clips to do the announcement of the teams. I thought that'd be hilarious. Like,
That
you
would
know,
be good.
if there's no one there in the grounds at the moment. It'd be so funny if Clips did it. And
People would love it. I think people would love it. When people get back in, that should be
Yeah.
the treat.
Oh, how funny! Yeah, that'd be really
Yeah.
good. But yeah, no, but it's, yeah, I mean, as you said, and you know, I just love it. It's the same thing. As soon as it comes out, we tweet it around all of our like the production team because we know it's going to be taken down very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And no, he's a lovely bloke. He's a lovely guy, Clips.
Good.
When he does, we're going to get him on properly. He's going to be probably the first person we've had on to do 2 11s because when he sort of reveals him, it's a bit like the Masked Singer. You know,
He's going to come on as a Bumblebee or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's going to do a proper 11. So, but no, he's top man. Right. Okay. Let's talk about your 11, actually, Tom. So obviously, everyone we've had on the channel, I said, oh, it must be 250 now. I've lost count, to be honest. We asked them to produce an 11. So you know, but the only rule is they have to be alive to see them play. They're lucky I said this beforehand because you picked 10 and forgot you had to sort of one in.
Yes, I mean, I did. I've seen a few episodes, and the thing is, Razor did it so fast. I didn't notice they were all players that he must have played with or known. He sort of went, right, number 1, number 2, number 3.
Oh, yeah. He's plugged his book, so he was ready. He was off now. You know?
I love him. He didn't make my 11, sadly. Sorry, Razor. But I didn't notice everyone had to be someone you'd seen. But I did. That is what I did, except one. But he's not in. I was just going to put Bobby Moore in because it felt like the thing to do as a cultural West Ham fan.
Yeah.
You know, when you go around the world, that's pretty much the first thing people say to you.
Bobby Moore.
A lot of people listening, watching would have known that as well. There are people, oh, you're a West Ham fan. Oh, Bobby Moore. And you're like, yeah.
Oh, Gary Breen. What?
Yeah, so he's not going in because I'm relatively young.
Yes, well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean that's why we put that in because otherwise I think everyone would have just done sort of West Ham folklore 11. It would have been Phil Parks, Bobby Moore, Billy Bonds, Trevor Brooking. You know, they've all got the stands named after him. But I never saw him play like you, Tom. I mean, I started watching him 92, 93, so the season before. So from then on was my period.
You've suffered,
so to speak.
You've suffered.
We have suffered. We exactly. I think. Well, funny enough, we're talking about you're to become got the baby in April rather. We were talking the other day. My daughter was due on the playoff final against Blackpool on the actual day.
Oh, did you win?
Of course, I had a really good ticket. I was working at I was doing. I had the best gig ever. I was because they wanted me to wear the hammerhead or the Bubbles costume, Bubbles the bear costume, but I hadn't. But you had to get a full CB. You had to get all your records and stuff. And it was like they told me the day before, and I was like, I would pass them obviously, but I didn't have time, so I was chaperoning them around. It was brilliant, and then my seat was like front row of like where Vastay scored like that goal. So, yeah, so I had like a beer in one hand and my phone in my other hand on like full volume, and literally 3 o'clock my phone rang and I was like, oh my god, you are joking me. But it was like a PPI call. It was really like it was something like it's almost like written in the IT crowd or something like that. It was that sort of like comical because like everyone was like, oh, is she going to labour?
How'd you go? Yeah, amazing. Do you know that day I was working at LBC that morning. I used to host the news program Saturday morning, which was like you're on from like 5 a.m. to midday and kickoff was at 3. And so I'd worked the day before and I was working that morning, got off. I think it'll be meant to be until 1, but I got out at 12. Someone done me a favour, whatever. Yeah. Met a friend at Liverpool Street, sank like 9 strongbows as quick as possible. Yeah. And then we got in and I mean, the game was obviously just the most they outplayed us, Blackpool, the entire game, as you know. Totally. And when Vastay scored, the next day someone said, what about when he took his shirt off? And I was like, did he? Because when we scored, I jumped up, but then did that really embarrassing thing when you tumble down the seats.
Oh, no.
So I tumbled down 4 or 5 seats, broke my glasses, and landed sort of face down. And people are obviously jumping up and down. I'm trying to get up to celebrate. I saw the goal, and then I don't remember anything else until we kicked off again, maybe 3 minutes later, because the celebration was so wild. So I didn't even know that he'd taken his shirt off. God bless him.
Oh dear, that was a fun day. And obviously, I think the day that evening, I think Mark Noble went for his stag do in Vegas.
Oh, is that right? Was it good? For yourself?
It was all right. It was all right. Yeah. I mean, flight was a bit bumpy on the way. Yeah, in the bubble costume, just me, Bubbles the bear, sort of sat I got an aisle seat, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't stretch out much. But yeah, sort of squeezed myself into the seat. But yeah, no, it was very good. No, yeah, it was one of those great days, wasn't it? It was and that's the thing. I think, as you said, as a West Ham fan, you say it breeds your own personality, and I think it does. It's sort of, I think like my daughter, she's 8. She's sort of a West Ham, more so with obviously the women's football. She's got it really into that. So, she's like, "Oh, West Ham never seem to win all the time, Daddy, do they?" I was like, "No, they don't. They don't."
No.
But that's the same as life. You don't get everything you want but when you do get what you want, make sure you look after it.
Yes, I mean, we talk about Arsenal fan TV. Look at them fans who are not used to moving.
Yeah, exactly. 15th. Don't take 15th.
And I'm happy to have the discussion about some of the over the top responses, which I'm just as guilty of when we look at games or are rubbish.
Yep.
Compared to some of these fans who, we're 7th and we're going to sack the manager because it's awful. And you think, how do you get through your life?
I know.
How do you get? I mean, life is basically 90% disappointment, and then the other 10% is worse. Okay, so you got to deal with it, guys. Every now and then, you're not going to beat Southampton at home. All right?
No, exactly. And that's why I jokingly said to someone yesterday, "Oh, looking at the league tables, we're 7th. Moyes out," and they went, "What? What?" I was like, "I'm joking. But that's the thing with West Ham fans. We're always waiting for the speed bump. We know the speed bump's happening. We know we're going to get the Burnley 3-0 at home defeat. We know that's coming. And because of that, we're always not enjoying the fact that we're playing all right. So it's like that Tottenham game, for example, we said, Lanzini scored. What an amazing game that was. Just from a football perspective, it's brilliant. That goal was amazing. It will go down in West Ham folklore history. Literally, within a blink of an eye, you get someone on Twitter say, "Oh, we shouldn't have been 3-0 down after 15 minutes," and Moyes didn't change it until 70 minutes. Who cares?
Are you following me on Twitter? How did you know what I said?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah. Retweet. What is this man on about? It's true. But it's so true, though, isn't it? It's like, we won.
The thing is with us, though, is if I wasn't a West Ham fan, I would have sympathy for West Ham fans because of obviously the move and all that sort of stuff. And, I have always been pretty pro the move. I think not going to that stadium would have been dumb.
Yeah.
I'd like it to have been better. I'd like the stadium to be better and all of that. And I'm happy to talk about that until the cows come home. But not moving, I think, would have been stupid.
Yeah.
Because the opportunity was there. I mean, I'd like us to have been involved in the ground floor. Obviously, not our fault we weren't. But before the thing was built, we should have been involved and there should have been a better deal and all of that. But I was always pretty pro move. However, I know a lot of people that weren't. I know some that have not been and will not go. I'm sure you do as well. And people watching will as well. And that's their prerogative, of course. But I think that we are getting now to the point where the whole sold the dream thing, which I find a bit unpalatable, sold the dream and it's all been a lie. If you were sold the dream, then you were the one dreaming. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that I would have liked it to have been better and potentially it could be better, but we were never going to be in the Champions League. And if you fell for we're going to be in the Champions League, I've got a bridge to sell you, Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And I
think I
think
have incredible sympathy because I also think if we'd have stayed and rebuilt the East Stand like everyone else, we'd have been happy. But
we'd have been happy. But I think you're right. We would have been lost behind. You see some of the stadiums that are being built now. There's no denying it. I mean, obviously I'm there every game, and even during lockdown, obviously I'm still at every game. There's no denying it's the infrastructure of it all. I mean, to be fair, we would never have been able to social distance at Upton Park. No way. It's the tightest ground in the world. You could only take one train to get there. If that line's down, you have that horrible trudge down Barking Road towards the parking station. It was loads of different, there's car park, they couldn't park your cars or all the residents and stuff. And it was falling apart. It was falling apart, bless her, and it's like, I think people forget.
I think, if you go to, I went to a Bayern Munich game last year sometime.
Yeah, I've been there. It's brilliant.
And you get off the train and you suddenly feel like, I'm on some industrial estate here, sort of thing. And you're walking from the station and it's sort of like you're going through the mud and all that. It isn't like going up Green Street. It isn't, now. But I think that there's a lot of things that have improved. I like what they've done on the outside. I like all the kind of like concession stands being on the island and all that. I'm not 100% on board with everything, but I think that people there are working hard to try and make it a better experience. And I mean, obviously, none of us have seen it with fans in it now that it's squared off at the ends. I think that's a good idea. I think there's you've got to find a way to get the sides a bit closer. I understand that, and obviously the tarpaulin bits where I sit in the media seats a lot. I try and go with my friends and family, but I also do sit in the media seats, and that is a terrible position to watch football from. I'm happy to say that, but
well, I mean, so if you turn back from where your seats are, so there's a big white box at the top. That's where I sit, and I have a lovely view. My view's lovely because I
mean, that's the thing. It's not a case of I can't see it. I can see it. I just don't feel involved. Maybe it's the media bit. I'm not cheering the goals. I'm at work. But I understand fully why some people hate it. I understand why people don't want to go. I am broadly still very much on board, and I think that maybe there could be a little bit more. I don't know if consultation is the right word, but what would make you happy, fans? About it all, which is not easy. I'm not saying I don't want to blame anybody, because again, it would have been stupid not to go. I think. But it could be better, and I hope it gets better.
We should all. I think everyone should just blame Spurs in this. Spurs and Orient, because they were the ones, weren't they? Because they were the ones who had to go we had to become tenants, really. Everyone forgets about that. We were going to be the owners, basically.
Well, I do think, I don't want to be all Mystic Meg here, but I do think at some point, considering the financial situation, the losses, and the issue of the last year or so as well, is that at some point they should sign it over to West Ham, and West Ham give a portion of the profit, any profit made, back to the central government. That seems like a good deal all round. And obviously it's a lot more complicated than those 9 words I just said, of course, but I think that makes a lot of sense that they would hand it over to West Ham to run, and profit would be given back, as opposed to the situation they're in now. West Ham could do more of what they might want to do with it if they can afford to do it. Again, a load more complications than just saying it as simply as that. But that makes a lot of sense to me. And the other thing as well is that you mentioned the Orient thing. I never got why people were so up in arms about the concept of a ground share. I don't get it. We are not rivals with Leyton Orient. No. We are never going to be rivals with Leyton Orient. I hope Leyton Orient do well. And I'm happy for Leyton Orient fans to consider that to be condescending. It is.
I just go and see them quite often.
And there's no reason why we can't have it one Saturday, they can't have it the next Saturday. It makes a lot of sense to me. It happens all over the world. It happens in all different sports. It doesn't make it any less our home. I would suggest that, I don't know, Coldplay doing a gig there makes it less our home than another football team playing there. You know what I mean? So bring Orient on board, bring another team on board. We should have rugby, we should have the NFL, we should have another football team. And as long as we have our games and we want our games, brilliant. Let's get that venue doing something.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's a particularly over the lockdown. It's just been there gathering dust, isn't it? Because it's horrible. But anyway, who's in goal for your 11?
Oh yeah, that was it.
I do say I've got to ask.
Can't you? You can tell. I normally have to move off West Ham after about 2 minutes.
Yeah, you haven't got. Yeah, you got no one bugging you. You haven't got no editor to say, "Oh, move on, Tom."
Keepers wise, I've loved a lot of our keepers. I love Xhaka. I spoke to Xhaka maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Everyone in that FA Cup team, as I said to him, I just adore them. I adore them all. Incredible faces when I see any of them. That I just love them, which makes a very awkward conversation. But I couldn't pick anybody other than Ludek Miklosko. I just couldn't. He is everything to me that a West Ham goalkeeper should be. First of all, ludicrous name. Yeah, like that's the first, most important thing. Secondly, a giant of a man. A huge goalkeeper, made some incredible saves. He was the goalkeeper through the golden era of me supporting West Ham as well, from like my first game through to like when I realised actually we're never going to win the league, are we? And of course, Man United at home. I mean, the performance to stop Man United winning the league in '95, which has gone down in history as one of the most legendary goalkeeping performances in Premier League history, maybe English football history. He was just so good that day. The late save from Andy Cole, all of that. And also, it is the best chant in football. It is the single best chant. And at all of the major junctions of my life, weddings, christenings, graduation, everything, that song has come out. It was the last song sung by everyone at my wedding. It was the last. When I go to other people's weddings and I'm there, it just happens. My friend's wife and I tend to knock this out around about 2 a.m. at every party we go to, and then it can just keep rolling. So you can go from end of party, when there were parties, remember those, to being home, and you can still do it. So all of that together has to be Ludo. I love him, and he had to be my number one.
Yeah, and you're right. And that song, the fact that we still sing it, at the grounds as well, away games, when we had away games, it's just, it's funny. But as when we had Tony Gale on, he was talking about Ludo, and he was talking about the song. He says, and he said, and you know what, Russ? He doesn't live near Moscow.
Yeah, I know.
We know Tony. We know, mate.
It's literally nowhere near.
No,
but it works in the song.
It does. He said, and he said, to be fair, it wouldn't work lyrically so well if it's, my name is Ludwig McCluskey, I come from near Prague. And I went, yeah, you're right, Tone. You're right, mate. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, Ludo, top man. Top man. And he was just like, and I remember, he was like the first, same as me, he was always in goal for us.
He was just, yeah. I mean, what did he play? 350 games for us, something like that. And he was
350. I think he had like 150 clean sheets or something ridiculous. And still, for some reason, I still think of him as Loopy Ludo, because my granddad used to call him Loopy Ludo, because he did like a flap once in a while.
Yes, for a man of maybe 6'6", he wasn't the best at crosses. No.
Because he went for everything. I think because he went for everything. Very similar to a lot of modern day keepers when they sort of misjudge things. He went for everything. He wanted to get every ball, and so naturally you would flap a little bit. It's just the way it was, man. So it was right. Okay, we put Ludo in goal. Let's go left back. Who should we have on the left? Should we play 4-4-2, Tom? We're playing 4-4-2.
I've actually gone
what are we playing
for a 3-5-2.
Oh, Moisey.
I've gone Moisey. I went Moisey. And my left wing back, this is terrible, but I was really fudged this formation to try and make it work. I'm putting Carlos Tevez left wing back.
Okay, yeah, love it.
And I don't care who thinks that's stupid, because firstly, I think he could play left wing back and be the best left wing back in the history of the club. Because he was, I love the fact we had Carlos Tevez. It was everything wrong and right about West Ham simultaneously. I remember being in a pub in central London when a friend of mine who hates football, hates it. He likes Formula One, which means he doesn't like sport, he likes transport. And he brought me the paper over at the Standard, and he was like, do you know you bought Carlos Tevez? And I was like, you know nothing about football, do you? There's no way we've bought Carlos Tevez. How have we bought Carlos Tevez?
Yeah.
And the whole thing, the picture of him and Pardew and Mascherano. And I couldn't work him in my formation anywhere else, but I felt like he had to be in there because he was so rubbish for us for so long. I was at the Watford game when he should have scored, and as I recall it, he had one kid off the line, and like he was running around. His effort was phenomenal, but he didn't know what was going on. Proper Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
And then I was in a pub somewhere in Brighton where I was living when we played Tottenham, and that free kick, which they just said, I was the only West Ham fan in there, and I just went berserk. Obviously, we went on to lose, and the whole night went downhill, but incredible. I was in another pub in Brighton, in the middle of someone else's birthday party, and I'd somehow got in, and I was watching the Blackburn game when, of course, he scored a penalty, and he cleared it off the line when it wasn't a goal. Yeah. And when he came into form for that 9 games, it just felt like we were never going to lose. Yeah. We were never going to lose. And also, the story of the Sheffield United thing, the Henry Winter in court, I'm not asked Henry this, but I do want to at some point, when he said that he thought Carlos Tevez was worth X amount of points to us, and that's why we stayed up, and it affecting our transfer budget for years and years and all of that, and the money we had to pay in compensation, that is a folklore story. I want to like Sheffield United. I really do. because Chris Wilder seems great.
Yeah.
And they're doing it with like, who are these players? David McGoldrick is somehow a Premier League player. You know, all of this.
Yeah.
I want to like him. I just can't.
No, I can't either.
And, you know, I think that there's such a folklore about it. And the goal at Old Trafford, you know, it didn't keep us up. Sheffield United losing against Wigan is what kept us up.
Exactly.
Today. So, you know, I'd like to clarify that when people bring it up. But Carlos, can't believe we had him. I wish we had him for longer. And I'd even have him back now. What is he, 39? I'd have him back now.
Yeah, I mean, he did say in an interview the other day, or maybe last month sometime, that the only European club to play for again would be West Ham.
Yes.
Like, okay.
To be fair, though, he did burn his bridges everywhere else.
He went back to Man United because you played for City and vice versa. But I mean, it's funny. I interviewed a guy the other day, and he's writing a book. Well, he's written a book. It's published in January about that season. Because he says it's like everyone remembers the Carlos at the beginning and Carlos at the end, but no one sort of talks about that season. It's a crazy season. That whole season was
Curbs coming in, the 7 losses in a row, the 9 to Man United, all of it. I mean, so much of it, the year after the cup final, everything. It was an incredible. It was Harchester United.
Yes, it was a proper dream team. Yeah. Proper dream team. Right, okay, we'll put Carlos at left wing back. I like this already, Tom. Right, let's go right wing back then. Who's on the right wing back position?
My right wing back is Steve Lomas.
Steve Lomas,
who we work with now. He's one of our co-commentators. Done lots of shows with Steve over the last few years, and he's such a brilliant guy.
Yeah,
but he is exactly as you'd imagine Steve Lomas to be. For those that haven't met Steve, he is so angry. Very funny. He really makes me laugh, but he's very, very angry. And what I loved about Steve, I like him personally, obviously, but that's not why I put him in. I'm not putting people that I've met. I put him in because he was captain of West Ham for what, 7 or 8 years, which is a phenomenal achievement, like for a long, long time. A real leader, a real vocal leader, incredibly versatile player, a man who made central midfield work, right back work, right wing back work. And, you know, you look at the goal he scored against Man U, the header where he takes his shirt off and shows himself to be the pastiest man in the world. You know, everything I love about a player, I think he made the top level on sheer personality and sheer will and sheer, you know, I don't think Steve Lomas could do 5 kick-ups. Sorry, Steve, but I don't think he could. And yet he was still, I think, one of our most important players in kind of modern history. And he even took an elbow in the face in the FA Cup against Arsenal and just shook it off and pressed on. Do you know what I mean? A proper, you know, I don't mean that, you know, this is a bit of a strange term these days, but he's an hard man, right? He was a proper hard man in the sense that he'd be the first man involved in a ruck, he'd be the first man to defend you, and if someone punched him in the face, he would keep on walking, and I love that about him.
No, I agree. I know exactly what you mean. And I'd like to talk to Steve as well one day, because when we had Razor on, Razor spoke about because obviously they had a Christmas party in Romford, didn't they?
Yes, I watched this the other day.
Yeah, and so he didn't explicitly say he took one for the team for Steve Lomas, but he basically said it. So and he was what I liked about Lomi was he was just like one of these guys who was just, you know, we've got more of them now in the team under Moisey. You wouldn't, you know, when Steve Lomas is in the team, you know, 7 out of 10, no worries as a base.
See, it's so important, and I think it's not just West Ham fans, because a lot of fans want 100% commitment. I get that, but at a club like ours, if you give 100% every time you're out there, you're right by us. Yeah. You know, you can have a bad game. It's like Antonio now. He might have a bad game. He might not be our trapper ball sometimes, all of that. But I know when he comes off, he is going to have given everything. Yeah. And that is pretty much what I want. Quality, sure, but this is the main thing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. All right, we'll put Lomi in. Right, let's go centre-half. Who's your first centre-half then?
So I'm going to have an actual centre-half in this position. Alvin Martin, my main centre-half. When I first started watching West Ham, same as you, 92, 93 era, he was obviously on the downslope. And he injured a lot during that period as well. But I remember, it's just a bit of a personal, I mean, I know him, again, I'm not just doing people I know. But I do know him now, and we've done a few games together. We've had a few sort of chats and that, and he's just, again, such a lovely person, so nice, and he's a brilliant analyst as well. Like, he really gets the game, and I love hearing him talk about the game. But my personal memory of Alvin when he was playing was the '95 season when he got sent off against Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty sure it was Mark Bright who was trying to run past him on the halfway line, and it's the halfway line, and Alvin was like, "Oh no." Yeah. I ain't getting him here. There is no, he's done me. And we were, for some reason, really high up the field, which I don't remember us ever being in that era. And he sort of like, I don't think he tried to foul him, but he was sort of falling and he was sort of blocking him and he was trying to be like, it's 85, I'll get away with this.
Yeah.
And he got sent off. And then I think Tim Breaker got sent off later. We were down to 9 men and we lost 2-0. But the reason it was special to me, because it was Monday Night Football, and I was going to Cubs at the time at St John's in Hornchurch, South Hornchurch, Raynham area. And it was the first time that I was going to go, and my dad was like, do you want to go Cubs tonight, or do you want to watch West Ham? And I was like, I'd rather stay in and watch West Ham. If that's the first time I made the choice between doing a thing or watching the Hammers. And I remember staying to watch it and post-game thinking, I should have got the Cubs.
Should have got the Cubs,
yeah. It was just the first time I remember it being a total disaster. He's obviously a legendary character. I did see him play, and he's a brilliant analyst and a real good guy. And, of course, the bit where he hugged David at Stamford Bridge. You know, find me someone who's got kids or, in fact, got a parent who didn't, you know, just bawl their eyes out to that. I love the way David fell to his knees at full time. I wasn't lucky enough to be there, but, you know, a lot of my colleagues were, and he was, and Al was working for TalkSport that day. Yeah. And everybody, by the way, has got nothing but great things to say about Alvin. I've never heard anybody say anything, even minuscule negative about Alvin, and everyone was just so touched by it. It was brilliant.
Yeah,
so he's
gotta be, Mr. Marston. Got to be indeed. You're right. That was synonymous, wasn't it? It was like a lovely sort of, again, these sort of we have these sort of images in West Ham folklore history which will be played and played many years to go. And that sort of Chelsea game, that hug, that's going to be one of those things in those compilations, isn't it? You know, it's going to be beautiful. Right. Okay. Alvin's in. Who's next? Who's next in centre back?
One of my other centre backs is the Terminator, Julian Dix. Has to be in my team. My probably favourite player of all time. Because, I mean, I just loved him. I loved him so much. First of all, I think most important to say, what a footballer. What a left foot. One of the best left foots on a player that I have seen. And I mean, all the way to the very top. The very top talents that anyone could think of for Champions League teams, all of that. Julian's left foot was up there with them. The way he could ping a ball 70 yards, one side to the other to someone's feet was phenomenal. Obviously, his personality on field being, you know, the Terminator for very good reason. Some of the tackles were exceptional. You know, whenever anything broke out on the field, he'd be the first man running over there to get involved. And, I mean, a few personal memories, really, of Julian being, I was at the Tottenham game, 97, when we just bought Hartson and Kitson, and he was our top scorer that season. Bangs that header in from the corner. The penalty, obviously, against Ian Walker that day, which was banged in. The penalty that season as well against Man U. Another game I was at. We had a season ticket that year when he blasted it past Schmeichel and then tried to blast him out again. Of course, he missed it the second one. It didn't matter. The fact, I mean, the 95 kit, best kit of all time. But the fact he ripped the terrible collar off every game. Like, literally just ripped, like, I don't know if it was scissors or he did it with his hands. I don't know. But, you know, everything about Julian, and even the legendary stories of when he used to, like, you know, the row with Bonzo, the legendary row, the punch up they had after he got sent off against, was it Derby?
Yeah.
All of that. What a figure. What a character. What a shame he got injured. And, you know, the valiant way he came back as well and tried to get a few more games out of himself before he gave up on it. The fact he was 2 stone overweight most of his career. You know, the fact he went to Liverpool and came back, when he came back with a skinhead, everything about Julian Diggs, I just love him. And yeah, and when he came back with Slav as well for the last season, you know, he keeps having moments where he turns up back in our lives, and I hope there's
yeah, me too. And obviously, you know, he hasn't got a job at the moment as well. So who knows? Who knows? There's still because I mean he was West Ham women's coach, wasn't he, for a while?
Yeah.
And there's a job going there in there at the moment. So nothing.
He's one of those people that so many of our generation of fans hold in such high regard and high esteem that I'm happy for us to make something work for Julian.
Yeah.
I'm happy for us to make something work in some way, whether it's ambassadorial, whether it is coaching one of the teams, whatever he wants to do. If he wants a job at West Ham, he's one of those people that I think I love to see. I want him to be involved. And, I don't know what he's like as a coach. I don't know, that much about him as a backroom member of staff, but I do know that he's someone that I think we should always look after because he's so special to so many of us.
And I just think he's just one of those guys who's, there's certain guys who are going to be legends throughout the eras, and he sort of transcended a few different generations, as because he came back as well, didn't he? So, a lot of people remember his first stint, and then obviously went to Liverpool, came back for his second stint. So there's like 2 or 3 waves of fans who remember him as a player.
Yeah.
Where people like Bobby Moore was like one era, really, so to speak. And what an era that was, but obviously, less people have seen him play because obviously, unfortunately, that generation's going away. So no, indeed, but yeah, something like Julian is just he transcends many, and it's even like we've interviewed guys like Mark Ward, and Mark Ward, his 11 was basically the 85-86 team, bar Julian Dix at left back, because he was saying if we had Julian at left back, we'd have won the league. It wouldn't be but how many points we'd have won the league by, and. No disrespect to Georgie Paris or Steve, but he was like, Julian would have been the final piece of the pie that we never really had that sort of top class left. And he was a top class left back. He galvanized a team from left back, which wasn't the most, you can't necessarily see, I suppose I was going to say Aaron Cresswell galvanized, but he's playing quite well at the moment. But you know what I mean? One of those sort of Julian tackle.
He's not in the Dix mold. He's a different player, and I like Cresswell a lot, actually, but he's not Julian Dix. He's not going to be that guy. And that 96-7 season, everyone says Hartson and Kitson, obviously, because they made such a big impact when they came in, the goals they scored. But we stayed up because of Julian. We stayed up because Julian was fit, and he led that team. He was our top scorer by February. I think he had 9 goals at that point. I don't know where he finished the season. Maybe Kitson took over by the end, but we were in the race to stay up still because of Julian Dix. And I think we stayed up because of him. And he made that kit work, didn't he? That's the important thing.
There must have been so many
savage it.
Yeah, there must have been so many like pissed off parents. They bought their son or daughters this shirt, and it's been ripped because Julian does it. It's like, but the club shop.
I was firmly told not to, and I'm pleased I didn't because I found that shirt the other day.
Brilliant.
In our garage, and it still sort of fits me. Not to wear in public.
Brilliant. That's brilliant, man. Right, okay. Julian's in. Alvin's in. One more centre back. Then who's the third centre back? Then
it's tough actually because this is where I was going to put in a legend, but I want to put people in that I saw, and I'm going to put Danny Gabidon in my team.
Yeah,
because I think Anton and Gabidon. It could have been either of those, and I was going to pick one or the other, but I think that they were such a good pairing. And they were such a cultured pairing. Like Gabidon read the game brilliant. He read the game brilliantly.
Yeah.
It was a brilliant recovery tackler as well. I think that they covered for each other's weaknesses perfectly. And there was that little run to the cup final. And I love that cup final team, as we all do, where I think that there was suggestions like we could maybe put Collins in, because he'd be a better centre-half than both of them. But they worked together so well that we ended up playing James Collins right back at times. It's insane.
Yeah.
But it somehow worked, And I think that pairing was so good. And I think Gabidon was the lead defender in that pair. I think he was a good footballer. I think one of the key reasons the next season went so pear-shaped because of his injuries. I think if he could have avoided injuries, he'd have been a full-on legend at the club. I think he'd be doing later in his career what Angelo Ogbonna is doing for us now. Because Ogbonna was the other man I was thinking about for this position. I think you can see over the time that Ogbonna has been at West Ham, he has grown into it. And I think we were robbed of that for Gabidon because of the injuries that he had. But I think he was, I don't think he was the leader of defence. Again, I think the pairing worked so well that they just knew each other's games so well because they were intelligent footballers. and you know, that cup final team is just so special to me and so many of us. And I think he had to be in there. And again, I hate doing this because I'm sounding like Ian Abrahams at this point, but he is my mate and he's great. And he's a great analyst, and I had to put him in because I'm going to speak to him. So they are, mate. You're in now, aren't you? All right.
Yeah, he's in. And that one thing that's been great out of, you know, from the first lockdown was Gabs's DJ sets on Instagram from his loft, which he hasn't done for a while.
He's a nice guy, and he actually, you know, my first thing I do for a living is obviously covering the football, and I'm always assessing the analysts and the commentators, and his reading of the game is exceptional. It is exceptional, and you know, I think that when you work with people and I'm like, you know, I'm a fan of the game. I'm an enthusiast about the game. I see the game. You know, a lot of commentators these days are all about their research, and I'll do the research. But I see football more as jazz than maths, right? That's how I see it.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Gabidon, I think, sees it from a mathematical standpoint, and he'll tell you, you know, the amount of times you watch analysis, and the analyst will go, "Look at that technique," and I go, "Well, I don't know what the technique is," and he'll tell you where the foot is. He'll tell you what he's watching. He'll tell you where the guys are standing. He'll tell you about spatial awareness, and I really admire that. And you can see that when you like retro look at the way he played. He just read it and he knew where it was going to be. And I think he's probably one of the best centre halves of the era that I have watched. To be fair, it's not a strong group. But I'm putting him in.
Yeah, and I just think, he's often forgotten a little bit over Ginge because of the aura that was Ginge, you know. And
if we'd have got more years out of him, it'd have been great for him. He went back he went to Palace and it didn't work out for him. You could tell the knee's gone. You can tell the body's gone. But there's a reason that in the peak bit of West Ham when they were there together, Gabidon got the nod and it wasn't Ginge, even though another one that could have easily been in because
easily. Yeah, sounds great. All right, we'll put Gabs in. I like it. I love it. Yeah. Not to sound too Ian Abraham, but it's really. Although the other day was funny. He had the right ump coming out of the game the other day, the Man United game. Oh, he had the right ump because it was like we've only got. Obviously, you know that. So the way the press group, obviously, you know, we've only got that one lift, haven't we, which goes all the way down.
Oh, I've seen about 3 hours of that lift.
That lift is so slow, and he was like, "I need to get to the pitch side."
Yeah,
and even Sam out of face. Hey, Ian, calm down. Oh, but that one's social distancing. They are. Ian, don't worry, man. Don't worry. Yeah. You can have 4 in the
character. He's a hard-working man. He's a very
hard-working man. Anyway, so we put Gabs in. Midfield 3. Then who's your first one?
My first one is John Moncur.
Oh,
John Moncur, again, another player. You can see a kind of theme in my players is they have a combination of tenacity and technical ability.
Yeah.
And John Moncur him and Bishop in midfield was brilliant. It was a brilliant pairing. It obviously lacked a defensive midfielder behind John Moncur and Ian Bishop would have made that a brilliant trio. But what I love about John Moncur, there's 2 eras of John. Firstly, when he came in and he lifted the technical ability in midfield from what was before with like Martin Allen and Peter Butler and those sorts of players. And I remember him, I can't recall the game, but I remember him doing something. It's the first time I ever saw it. And you don't see it much now either. He took a corner for us on the right-hand side with his left foot. And he took a corner for us on the left-hand side with his right foot. He just did it with both feet. Yeah. And I know that sounds mad, but you see players now, like you see players like Danilo, who is a £60 million fullback. He won't use his left foot. He refuses to use it. John Moncur was taking corners with both feet. And at the time, you know, I was about 10 or something, maybe younger. And you're watching him thinking, that's amazing. Like he's completely, I don't know what the foot version of dexterity is, but he had it. And he was with both feet and he was comfortable on both feet. I remember both feet. And I remember thinking, that's amazing, that. You know, and you couple that with what a good creative player he was, what a great energy he had. And then you couple that with the longevity and the bookings.
Yeah.
You know, the off the bench to get bookings era was so funny. And at the time, me and my dad had a season ticket in the East Stand. We were on the right-hand side, you know, near the away fans, that bit where we're standing up. such a great time. 99, 2000, that little era. And there was some blokes behind us. I never knew their names, but they were so funny. I remember them because the guy behind used to not be able to say Harry Redknapp. So we would always call them Harry Red Slaps Clout Muami. And I still say that now, Harry Red Slaps Clout Muami. It was always funny. But when he come on, everyone would be like, oh, when's the booking coming? And everyone, when he got the booking, everyone would cheer like it was a goal because you knew it was coming. He's the kind of bloke that would like get the ball and throw it at the linesman and get it back again. Just all that. Incredible personality, good footballer. And I just loved him. I just loved it when he came on. And John Moncur in my team.
And you've just a complete. Obviously, we've had John on the channel as well, and he's just absolutely. Obviously, he's a little bit calmer now.
Yes.
But when we started talking about the old days, you could see his like glint in his eye. And then he's like verbal diarrhea. Like, I could tell you this other time. Right, I was, and this other time, and this other time. It was like literally just like one after. It was like a little caged animal.
Yeah,
it was like released into the wild, telling all these stories.
Moncur as well is that you obviously spoke to a lot of the players of that era, and I spoke to a few as well. And everyone's got a John Moncur story.
Yeah.
Everyone has got a moment of what he's done, either on the training pitch or wherever. I mean, obviously different man these days, but. Everyone has got a something mad Moncur did.
Yeah.
And I love that, I love when someone goes, oh, you never get this random Tuesday, he done this,
Yeah, exactly. And that's that whole era encapsulated that, I think. There's all these, and obviously maybe without social media and stuff like that, all these stories have become like folklore, and it's like that the time where he was naked and Sky were there and, all that type of stuff.
So funny.
Brilliant. It's such a funny bloke. Right. Okay. We'll put Monks in. Who's next then, Tom?
The midfield is not complete without Mark Noble. No West Ham midfield is complete without Mark Noble. Again, right up my street with the kind of player that I'm talking about. Should have played for England.
Yeah.
Should have played many, many times for England because he was such a complete midfielder when he was about 27, 28, when the energy was still there, the legs were still there. Such an assured passer of the ball. People talk about Mark Noble with the tackles, the tenacity. Everyone thought he was a defensive midfielder for years. He's never been a defensive midfielder. He is a box-to-box central midfielder. And for the many things I don't like about Manuel Pellegrini, I think he noticed that Mark Noble was a very good footballer. Yeah. And he might be the first West Ham manager to go, actually, this guy, he don't lose the ball. He is not going to give the ball away. And he put him slightly further forward. Moyes uses him there a bit now when he comes on. And I hope he goes on to have a bit of a John Moncur last 15 minutes man over the next few years. But, first of all, great footballer, brilliant footballer. The goal against Tottenham, coming through at 17, his weird little square head, all of that, I love it. The fact he's sort of gone bald, but no one's noticed. His fringe now goes down like 8 feet across his face. I love all that.
Yeah.
We're the same age, and he reminds me a lot of everyone that I know. Yeah. I feel like I could know Mark Noble. You're probably the same area as me. He reminds me a lot of people that I do know. So you put all that together with the tackles, the picking up Herrera, the times he's booted people into the stands, how he's performed in every Tottenham game, every single Tottenham game. You've never seen a man more possessed and driven to win for West Ham than Mark Noble. And then you couple that with what a brilliant captain. How many people have got a story about fishing with Mark Noble or him putting his arm around them when they come to the club? Everyone who's gone through hard times, the players say Mark Noble's been invaluable. Every manager has said Mark Noble's been invaluable. Listen to what Kevin Nolan has said about Mark Noble, Sam Allardyce, David Moyes. Everybody says the guy is almost part of the coaching team. Now, I know he had his Diangana tweet moment, but even that I thought was speaking for supporters.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't. There were people on TalkSport that aren't really part of the club or whatever, and they were sort of bashing it and saying, "What's that going to do to morale?" I think nothing galvanised the support going into the season.
I agree.
More than Mark Noble saying what he thought. And Mark Noble should get free license to say what he thinks at all times. And then you take all that, and then you put it together with his charity work. You put it together with his work in the community. You put that together with just everything. And there was a wonderful interview with Graham Hunter. He does the series of interviews in his podcast. Sorry, Graham, I've forgotten the title now, but he does these brilliant, the interview or the conversation or something.
Yeah.
And I spoke to Graham about it actually on another show I was doing. I was saying that I thought it was great. The Mark Noble one was brilliant. And he's talking about when he was investing in a housing project and he's investing in affordable homes and all that sort of stuff. And the interview with Graham Hunter, well worth checking out, because he just talks to people about how much he believes in the people, the area. He wants everyone's lives, his people, to get better. You know, everything about Mark Noble is just brilliant. He's a brilliant, brilliant person. He was a brilliant, brilliant player. I think he's still got a lot to offer. He's obviously a very intelligent footballer. And I would just love to see Mark Noble be West Ham manager. I would just love, if he wants to do it. You know, it's so hard to get people to want to be managers these days for very obvious reasons. It's why Big Sam keeps coming back, because no one wants to do it. But if there's a pathway for Mark Noble to be West Ham manager, I can't think of a thing that would make me happier.
No, I know what you mean. I totally agree. And it's funny because I was obviously, you know, very, very fortunate obviously to be at the games, and last season, that Chelsea game, it was almost like fan cam, and I was just like a player cam, but he wasn't playing. And I was watching Mark Noble sitting in, so obviously, you know, where you guys sit, you know, the disabled sits, that's where all the auxiliary players sit, because obviously social distance. And Mark was literally right in front of me, and I watched him almost the whole game, and he was watching it like a fan. And you know, everyone knows that he's a fan and West Ham, but actually seeing it for believing it was, yeah, absolute proper. And he literally, you know, as soon as that whistle happened, and obviously Yarmouth scored that third goal, he jumped over that barrier and I was like, oh, God. You know, because it was like a bit of a drop, to be honest. You know, I wouldn't have advised it, just to get into the tunnel, just to be with the players, and it was, yeah, he's just there's no words to describe Mark Noble, I don't think.
Yeah,
an absolute living legend. Right, okay, so we've got Monks, we've got Noble. Who's going to be this third pillar in this midfield?
The third man who plays number 10 for this team and will create the chances to lead us to Champions League glory. It's Dimitri. Yeah. Dimitri Payet is in my team.
Yeah.
He is the most talented player we have had that I have seen. That season was just so magical in so many ways. And I think so much of it was because of him. You know, we could all pick out multiple games where he was the best player on the field by such a distance that I remember being like slack-jawed. Arsenal away, slack-jawed at how good he was. The Man United game, the last game, so good. Man United in the cup when he scored that free kick, the Palace free kick, you know, the way he played away at Everton when we got the late comeback there. Like, there's so many games and so many moments. You know, I've not seen many players, the Anfield win, of course, players who could pick the ball up in danger in his own half and carry it 40 yards upfield, shrugging players off like they weren't even there. You know, and it's not just that he was skillful, which he was, but he just had a way of keep chopping the ball around that no one could follow. He wasn't like a 400-step over guy. He could do that, of course. But I think the key thing about Dimitri was he was able to chop the ball around with perfect balance, combine that with his bulk, and he was built for the Premier League. The crossing, the attitude, everything. Such a shame it wasn't built to last. You know, I think that he never really wanted to leave Marseille. And, you know, we've all heard the stories, which I don't want to get into because I can't speak to the veracity of them. But I think he had to get back to Marseille. I'm not sure he ever wanted to leave Marseille. I think it was always going to be a brief sojourn at West Ham. I wish it didn't end like it did, because if he could have just finished that second season and gone, I think everyone would have gone, thank you. Thank you and goodbye. Leaving in the January was hard. It's hard for all of us. And it does taint people's memories of him. And even when West Ham official tweet like the Palace goal, whatever now, or the Middlesbrough goal, or the assist at Watford, people go, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see it. Don't show me this. And that's such a shame, because we haven't seen a player that magic.
No.
You know? And I'm over that now.
Yeah.
Over it. I felt like I got over it quite quick, but I was definitely super annoyed for a while, like everybody was.
Yeah.
But I feel blessed to have seen him. I was in attendance for a lot of those goals, a lot of those moments. And even, you know, to a personal memory, I took my nephew to the Accrington Stanley game. And I don't get to go to as many games as I would like because I work a lot Saturdays, Sundays. You know, I really have to make it work to get to West Ham as a fan as well.
Yeah.
It's even worse to get there. You know, I haven't got a season ticket. I'm not a member these days. It's all very difficult. But I got to take my nephews who at the time were, let's say 5, 7, and 9. Sorry to my sister if I got their ages wrong as usual, but it's something like that. They're all young boys.
Yeah.
And we stayed to the end. We were at the end where we scored the free kick against Accrington Stanley, like last minute, and we just got past Accrington Stanley. We were useless on the day.
Yeah.
But I got to see, and that may be his last goal for us. I'm not sure if we scored again. But we got to see a Dimitri Payet free kick in the flesh as a group. And it was just magic. And I won't forget it. I don't forget it. And I appreciate that we had him because he was stunning.
Yeah. He was a phenomenal player, and I don't think we'll ever see anyone of that caliber in the claret and blue unless there's a massive change. I mean, unless Saeed becomes that person, but he's
though. Like, we'll have other great players. We've had great players. I've got a couple more great players to come in my team. Tevez is already in my team, but there is only going to be one Dimitri Payet because of when he came.
Yeah, it was.
He was. I mean that season, which was, we spoke about the move earlier. It was tough. It was a tough season, but it was so joyous, and everything was just right.
Yeah,
we had products in the team, in Tompkins and Noble. We had Dimitri. Everything about it was just right. And if it wasn't for robbery from terrible officials, we'd have finished 4th.
Yes,
what we deserved that season, if not more. And the cup, we should have won the cup. We should have come 4th, but the officials were so useless, as they always have been and always will be. No matter how many replays you show them, they're still stupid.
Still don't get it.
That's what cost us. Anyway.
It's true, and I think with him as well. I just think with him, he just was this incredible. Well, he just did it from day one, didn't he? Like I remember the Southend friendly that he was like his proper day, and he was just like, this guy's good. And he was, and it's funny, he's one of those players who everyone literally will say, who are you going to play? Who are you going to pick next? Oh, everyone's going to hate me, but I'm going to pick Dimitri Payet. But everyone does. I think he's like literally at the moment, he was like top of all the midfielders in my so far, my Hammers 11s, because he made such an impact. Because as you said, it was not necessarily his longevity, but that season and what he brought to that season would not have been the same if it wasn't for him.
He not only was he a great player and all of that, you couple that with then what happened with France in the summer tournament, where everyone was talking about our player being the best player in the tournament. We had the best player in European football for a brief period. We had a Ballon d'Or nominee for a brief period, which is just inexplicable for us. He was a cultural phenomenon, and it was a wonderful summer affair, and I wish it could have continued forever, but they never.
They never do, do they? They never do. Holiday romances. Right, okay, so put Dimmy in. Who do we get up front? Who's going to be your first striker then, Tom?
Number 9, Dean Ashton. Dean Ashton was again, a special player for us. Firstly, the FA Cup run, the goal at Man City, the goal in the final, all of that, he was so pivotal to it. Everyone's got personal memories of these things. I was in a hostel in Amsterdam watching the Man City game. My dad was at the game and he was trying to ring me from the game. I'm in Amsterdam, so I wasn't quite in the position to take a phone call at the time. And my dad was at the game and he was trying to ring me at half time saying, we're going to win, blah, blah, blah. And I remember when Dino scored that goal, flicked it into his own path, burst past the centre half, then bashed it in the corner. And it was just a world-class goal. World-class goal from a man at the absolute peak of his powers. And I celebrated wildly that evening, as you can imagine. I was in a bar in Thailand when he scored the overhead kick against Man United when he'd come back from injury. We lost the game, but fans at Old Trafford were clapping him. And I remember being in this bar, and it was all Man United fans. And when he scored, I went on the most outrageous rant to all these Man United fans about how good Dean Ashton was. For about 10 minutes, I did get removed from the bar, which is not easy to do in a bar in Thailand, but that's impressive. Tiger for you. So I've got loads of great. He seemed to do lots of things at personal times for me, And I told Dean this once, I once went to a fancy dress party, and I was invited to this party like an hour to go before the party, and they were like, "You've got to wear a fancy dress." So I went as Dean Ashton, which is so dumb. But I had like bleached blonde hair, and I had the West Ham kit from the FA Cup. So I was like, right, I'm going as Dean Ashton. And the whole party, people were like, "Who you come as?" And I was like, "Dean Ashton." And they were like, "What?" And I just explain individually who Dean Ashton was to these people who didn't like football. It was the greatest party I ever went to. I kept speaking about Dean Ashton all night.
Yeah.
But he was so good, and he was such a good striker. And again, maybe it's a West Ham thing, but all my greats tend to be tinged with sadness because, of course, the injuries and, you know, when he came back and then we lost him again, he tried to come back, we lost him again.
Yeah.
So I think Dean Ashton would have gone on to play for one of the top 6 teams in England. I think he would have got 40, 50 England caps. I think he had that combination of power, speed, precision. He could head the ball. He was versatile, and he was nowhere near his peak when he had to retire. Nowhere near it. And you could tell how much he was improving. You could tell how good he was. And we got the best of Dean Ashton. I know they love him at Norwich. I know they love him at Crewe. And he loves them back, you know, because he's such a nice guy. Mm-hmm. And you can tell again when you watch him on TV, you know, I've worked with him a little bit. Good analyst, reads the game well, knows strikers. He knows strikers intrinsically. And you could see that. And gutted we didn't get more of him. But what we got, I appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, he was, in my opinion, the most complete striker I think we've had in the modern era. You know, he said everything, didn't he? He just literally had everything. You know, had the pace, had the power, had the skill. And yeah, it's just really, typical West Ham gets literally snatched away from us by the smallest player ever to play for England. Or I still can't watch anything with Sean Wright-Phillips on. It's really weird. I still like turn it on. You know, he was doing Crouchy's thing over the summer. I couldn't watch it. Could not watch it.
It is. I mean, you know, it is tough. I haven't. I've still not got over it. I remember. I mean, at the time when you heard that he got injured, and you were like, Sean Wright-Phillips.
Yeah. You
know, I'll never. And I just, you know, in a joke way, but also seriously, I'll never forgive him.
Yeah. Right. We'll put Dino in. Who's the last piece of this Tom pie then? Who's your last striker?
The last piece is inevitable. Everyone knows it's coming because I say Dimitri was the most talented player we had, but he won't ever be Paolo Di Canio.
Oh, so okay, Paolo Di Canio. Sorry.
Because I look like him, right? You were looking at me thinking that is Zaza. You know, it had to be Di Canio. You know, I think just so magic in so many ways. From I mean, you know, we could all do our Di Canio memories. I remember a personal one is when I was listening in the car. You know, I'm a radio commentator now, and the first radio commentary I truly remember loving was Jonathan Pearce's work on West Ham Arsenal when he scored 2 goals. You know, the first one where he runs from the halfway line and then suddenly breaks him again in the penalty area and he scores. The one where he mugs off Martin Keown and volleys in the top corner. I was sitting in the car outside the Lakeside shopping centre, and my mum and sister were browsing around Lakeside, and I was like, I've got to see what's happening in the West Ham game. And there used to be a shop where you could watch teletext outside, a video shop, and for whatever reason, I couldn't watch it there. And so I went back. I got my mum to give me the keys, and I'm quite young, so it's a bit of a bold move because I was a bit of a nightmare. But she gave me the car keys, and I went to the car and I listened to the game on Capital Gold with Jonathan Pearce, who was just phenomenal on the radio in that era. It might have been with Tony Gow as well, now I think about it, but I remember Pearce doing it, and it was just exceptional commentary. And it certainly is a very key moment in my love of radio commentary and wanting to do it, but also Paolo himself. You know, I was at Old Trafford when he scored the goal against Fabian Barthez and all that. You know, I was at the Wimbledon game when he scores the greatest goal of all time. You know, and there's so many. You know, when he scores the goal against Chelsea, the Mamma Mia. You know, the fact he could have gone to Man United all that time but didn't go because he was a lunatic. You know, the fact that Ferguson wanted him in that era, and what a player he would have been for them, by the way. You know, he wanted him to replace Teddy Sheringham when Sheringham was sort of like past his peak. You know, in that, and Di Canio would have been great for them, but he didn't go for whatever reason. The fact he wouldn't show up for away games in the Northeast. You know, the Bradford game, the best game I ever saw in my entire life, when he tried to get Harry to take him off. Which, I mean, I've heard Harry tell that story a few times. And then he goes on to score when him and Lampard have the row about the ball to take the penalty. You know, how many stories could you do about Paolo Di Canio? I was at the game after September 11th when he had the US flag as the captain's armband, and when he scores, I forget who it was against. There might have been Newcastle. He jumps into the crowd and the Bobby Moore afterwards, you know, and he's waving the stars and stripes around. You know, it was a tough time for everybody in this country as well as in America, of course. And you know, he just got it. You know, a man whose emotions were so raw at all times. And that spoke to him as a player, as it spoke to him as a person. And, you know, people have their issues with Paolo as a person, and I fully appreciate that. Yep. And, you know, I'm not here to say he is the greatest person that I could imagine. I agree with his political views and all of that. You know, I speak to some of my Italian colleagues who have got no time for Paolo Di Canio. And, you know, we don't want to go down that route here, but I understand it. But he was just so special, a player we should not have had. You know, a bit like Dimitri, a player we should not have had, a player that belonged at such a higher level, but he was so nuts that he couldn't do it at a higher level. You know, you watch some of the goals he scored in Serie A, you know, ludicrously talented, had to go to Celtic because he couldn't be handled anymore in Italy, came to us because Sheffield Wednesday could not handle this guy anymore. I think maybe only Harry could have harnessed Di Canio. You know, it was a great chat you had with Harry, and obviously everyone's seen so many great anecdotes with Rennie. And I think that he was the kind of manager that could just get magic out of this nutter. You know, and I mean that in the most affectionate way. I know that's got horrible connotations these days, but I mean that really affectionately, because he just couldn't be harnessed. He couldn't be controlled. But if you could get his magic boots on and get him out there doing his thing, then he gave you some of the most magic memories ever. And he was just so talented. The way he could beat 3, 4, 5 players, you know, a bit like, again, not a step over Merchant, but he was a chopper. He could chop it left, right, left. You know, perfect balance. You know, and you couple that with the Fila shirt, the great shirt of that era. You couple it with the blonde highlights. You couple it with the Italian kit when we had the Italian player, the Italian cut of the Fila kit. You know, everything about it was so perfect. Again, all too brief, but it was just, I loved him. I loved him so much. And I love the fact he loves us.
Yes.
You know, I think that there are certain players that fit with certain clubs. I think he'd have gone to Man U and been brilliant. I think he would have been bombed out after 18 months for some reason. You know, he would probably would have won the league with them. He should have won more, someone that talented. But I think it just fit. It just fit him and us, that era, the manager, everything. I think he was never going to work with Glenn Roeder.
No.
Don't talk to me about Glenn Roeder. But, I mean, you could tell again that when Brooking came in for that run at the end, suddenly Paolo was back.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he needed someone that could understand the concept of enigma. And I don't think the accountant we had in charge for 2 years understood what Di Canio could bring. I think people like Harry and people like Brooking, they got Di Canio. They got what he could do. They got what he was about. They knew that you had to harness the lightning. And I think maybe Glenn Roeder might have once asked Di Canio to track back. You don't ask Paolo Di Canio to track back. He might track back if he feels like it. You know? And that was Paolo. And I just love him.
And I just think with Paolo as well, I just think he as you said, we should never have got him, but we got him for what he did. And you know, in a way, with a lot of players actually, when they come to West Ham, we sort of almost resurrect their career, and we sort of I mean, he was in the doldrums, obviously, what he did with Alcott, but
no one would touch
him. And then obviously he then, you know, from being okay at Sheffield Wednesday with him and Carbone, to become, you know, West Ham, and then he was, you know, he's in the same bracket as Zola and Bergkamp and Henry in terms of their impact in the Premier League. He's in that sort of, you know, he never would have been that if he wasn't at West Ham, because of the impact he had at West Ham as well. So I think he knows that as well. And I think that's why there's this sort of, and there's certain players. I mean, obviously Carlos is the same. You know, they just, you know, they're not from around these parts, but there's some affiliation there, and a love for the club, and
Yes.
it's a bizarre thing. It's a bizarre thing why it works, but it just worked, and that was Paolo, wasn't he? He's a bizarre player.
Yeah, absolutely. There is that incredible thing where you can't. Maybe I mentioned this earlier on. Sometimes you're not from an area, but there's a feel about a club. Fortune's always hiding. Like my dreams, it is going to fade and die, guys. That element of the West Ham support. The song encapsulates the club. The song encapsulates the fans. There is, I hate to say working class because I don't know what that is in 2020 as opposed to you'd know what it was in 1970. No one's down the pits at this point. No, we're probably going back, but that's a whole other thing.
Yes, it will be,
But I think that there is still a semblance of what it means to be West Ham and the area. And the area is that weird combination of impoverished and wealthy. It's people with work ethic and people that have done good from their work ethic, and all of that comes together, I think. And when you're from, I don't want to compare us to Buenos Aires or to Napoli or whatever, or Lazio, these sorts of other working class places that have a kind of vociferal and working class support. But there is something there. I don't know what it is in 2020.
I agree.
The year 2000. But there's something about the people and the combined histories and the docs and all that bring certain types of player from certain types of places. When they come to West Ham, it works. And Paolo was one. Tevez was one. I think Dimitri to a point was one. And Steve Lomas, I think, goes in that group as well.
I think they do. It's like Alvin as well. It's like from Liverpool. We have a big. There's everyone who comes down from the Merseyside. Mark Wards and all these all these Mickey Mouses. They come down here, and it's his affiliation, isn't it? And it's nice, isn't it? That we have. It's like everyone we've interviewed, all the ex players, all they talk about is how much they enjoyed their time at West Ham. The fans, not one person said something bad about it. Nigeria Coca said half a bad thing about it.
Well, that relationship can go both ways, no question. It can go both ways. If the fans don't like you, good luck to you. And I think that does go both ways. I don't think West Ham are unique in that, but there is sometimes a unique relationship between clubs and fans, and ours do have certain players that we adopt for whatever reason. And it isn't just good players. We've had good players that we've not liked.
That's true.
We have had them. Yeah. I think people like wanted to love Arnautovic, but just something wasn't right there with him. He wasn't fully our type of person. I think because of his complete lack of any concept of loyalty. And I think that's important to West Ham. Because Di Canio wanted to leave. I've no doubt that Di Canio would have wanted to go, but I think he also wouldn't have gone unless the circumstance was right. For him, for us, it's the Dimitri thing. Dimitri stayed till the summer. People would have gone, thank you very much, and move on. The way he left and always sit wrong with us, and I think that there's always going to be that with us. Loyalty is important, and there's no loyalty in the modern game, sure, but it goes back to Declan Rice. If he gives us 7 years and 5 full seasons as captain, and at 25 goes to, if it has to be Chelsea, fine, I hope it's someone better than that. But preferably Real Madrid, where he should be playing because he's so good. Totally. But if he gave us 5 years and went at 25 to Real Madrid, I think everyone would go, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'd almost, to be fair, the summer, we was almost walking him out the front door. He's bound to go. Good luck to you, Declan. Good luck to you. Yeah. Scott Parker's there. Hello. What about me? What about me?
Yeah.
Anyway, Declan Rice. Well, congratulations. So it's it's as you said, it's all about loyalty, and it's about how people leave clubs in West Ham. It seems.
Yeah. It's why people have always, I don't think people have ever had a bad word to say about Michael Carrick.
No.
He gave us that year in the Championship. Yeah. And he could have walked away. He could have gone, and many did. But Carrick, I refuse to believe no one came in for him. And obviously we sold him for rubbish money in the end. It was like 3 mil we sold him for, and it should have been 50. It was so good. But by the by, he gave us that year. And he could have gone, and he could have forced a move like others did. Hi, Jermaine. But he didn't, and he'll always be quite high in my estimation because of that.
I agree.
And you mentioned Scott Parker. If he'd have done 1 year in the Championship for us and then got to Tottenham.
Well, I think I mean, it's for me. I'm that's one of when people pick Scott Parker, I'm always good on you because he
3-time Member of the Year.
Exactly, he carried that team for us.
I wanted to put him in. I really, really did, and I like him. I like him as a person. I like him as a coach. I like his incredible clothes. I like what he's done with everything about him. They went to Tottenham the year we went down, and I can't accept it. I'm sorry. There are so
it's okay.
That's one.
It's okay. Anyway, thank you so much, Tom, for your time.
This is so fun. I can't believe how long I've gone on for. You really got to
what I was going to say. I've just checked. Congratulations. This is the longest episode we've had. There we go.
I went on the Knees Up Mother Brown podcast when the lads were doing it, when James and Chris were doing it.
Yeah.
I only did it once because they said it was the longest show they did because I went on for so long.
Chris can fucking talk, innit? So it's like Jesus, and longest, all of them.
Like 40 minutes, and I gave them like an hour and 20.
Brilliant.
I don't get to talk about West Ham, and honestly,
that's the thing, you're like caged, isn't it? And it's like you can talk about West Ham. Oh, okay,
I could have done 3 hours on the cup final team. I could have done 3 hours on last night's game. I'm so they are so much a part of me, and I try and I don't really cover West Ham games, but obviously if I did it for work, I absolutely would. But at the moment, I'm in a good position where I don't have to do West Ham games because it is so much a part of who I am that I find it quite difficult to separate myself from it. Look, professionally, I did the game between West Ham and Arsenal a few years ago when Jack Collison scored the opening goal for us. Yeah. And you go back and hear that game, and this is a real learning curve in my career, actually, because Jack Collison's goal, you would have thought it was Maradona in the World Cup. And then when I think Giroud scores Arsenal's 5th, you wouldn't even know.
Yeah, so you wouldn't know it was a goal.
That's
like with Mark.
I cannot do that again because that wasn't fair to any Arsenal fan listening, and you owe the audience. Yes. If not neutrality, you owe them fairness. I don't think neutrality is possible, and I don't offer you that, but I do offer you fairness as a commentator, and I offer you my honesty. And I don't want it to be a supporter of one team against your team, because enough. But all that commentators hate it when you accuse them of bias, because when you're on there behind the mic, you actually don't have it. People are like, I always get, oh, you're very biased against West Brom today. I couldn't give a toss about West Brom, mate. I don't. There's no way, And I don't the game last night. I don't feel any anti-Tottenham feeling when I'm on there. It's my job. My mortgage relies upon it. Okay, I'm not doing that now. But in this context, I'm happy to say Scott Parker, I'll never forgive you.
Yeah, and that will conclude today's interview. Thank you very much for your time, Tom. I really appreciate it. And obviously, thanks everyone for watching. Well done for watching to the end.
Endurance.
Exactly. Don't forget to give it a share, give it a like, give it a subscribe. And for me and Tom, take care, everyone. Wash those hands. Come on, you irons, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Take care, everyone.